how would you know if the computer would be in use then?
They're listed.
Okay, so
They're-
why don't can you email me that?
Yeah.
Is this the
I
same
can
program
put
that you guys talked about a couple months ago? No, something
No,
different.
This is
Okay.
something I just came across, but it's,
And when was the due date?
it's March 12th, and there's $100,000 remaining, as of this email, and it's first come, first served. But for energy efficient models, and it just seems to be taking advantage of it. And I'm sure like the highway department refrigerator probably still uses CFCs.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could say is we wouldn't have a chance to bring anything back to the board for approval, so unless somebody wants to make a motion, then I, go ahead and, we really can't review it before we ask anything.
What is that true for all purchases or purchases over 1,000?
It's purchases over 3,000, I believe, but it's, I mean, we could do it probably by, like if I said like, consensus, right? I'll have to follow up on it and see what.
It has to be purchases that are going to be made, or, because we purchased some computers.
We just, yeah,
What are the dates?
we just made some purchases on some of those things,
Right.
Because I know NYSERDA fell on its face. I bought a washing machine and I'm waiting 4 years now to collect on it.
Yeah. I have to look, purchases made before September 25th, 2012 are not eligible, so.
Before
anything
September.
after
September
that date.
25th.
We've made some purchases I could look into.
All right.
Some of the equipment, and especially like you said, Carl, and the police department, and stuff like that.
Right, okay.
All right, would you email that to me?
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else?
You said announcements, right?
Yep.
The Rosendale Theater is going to have an open house free to the public on March 23rd from 5 to 6:30, and there'll be food, drink, finding out what we've been up to and what we hope to be up to, and so everybody is most welcome to come.
You said March 23rd?
March 23rd,
At-
free to the public, 5 o'clock is a Saturday till 6:15, 6:30.
Okay.
And so please join us.
Okay. Yes.
There's a new Rosendale School of Art, and we're having an open house at the Catholic School classroom on April 12th.
You mean St. Peter's Catholic School?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, but it's going to be the Rosendale. As we get a classroom, so might everyone, and that's the hope, that we can use that building, all of us. So I did get a classroom, maybe you can get a classroom, all God's children can get a classroom.
You mean Rosendale Art School? Is that what it's
It's the
called?
Rosendale School of Arts. The open house is April 12th. It's from 6 to 8. It will be in one of the classrooms on the lower floor, but there'll be people to meet you at Maury Hall to bring you in, and there will be refreshments there, too. Okay.
And some of your favorite artists. What's that
Anyone
date?
else?
April 12th?
April 12th. It's a Friday night.
Okay. First on the agenda, Terry Johnson is here, our water superintendent. The Water and Sewer Commission met recently and is making a recommendation. Jack, I don't know if you want to speak on it. Recommendation for a rate increase. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, we're starting to fall behind on a system that's 30-some odd years old as far as the sewer. The water part is starting to catch up to us on like Main Street. We're getting a couple of breaks now. System's over 100 years old. We're looking to increase over the minimum. Your minimum right now is 4,000 gallons, and it's $55 for the water and $70 for the sewer. We'd like to see an increase going from $450 per thousand over that to $550 per thousand, both water and sewer.
I think percentage, you had a percentage?
It's 18.2% increase. We're trying to keep the minimum, so people who don't use the 4,000 individuals, single people, that they wouldn't get an increase in it, but the person who is using the system more with a bigger family or for whatever reason would pay, and then you have control over what you use.
Right. I do want to mention that the last 2 years, without the increase, the district still had an increase because it ended up being repairs and improvements that were necessary to be made had to be put on their tax bills.
Right.
So this is basically shifting that cost to the rates instead of, and based on usage, rather than everyone getting a tax bill based on the repairs that were not able to be covered by the monies that are collected by taxes.
Hopefully, this will bring us up to where we break even at the end of the year for what we use. It's not gonna put any money in the bank for us to fix anything that breaks. It's only gonna,
Yeah,
Keep
we need to be
repaying
at a
what we
level
have.
where we're not in the hole every month.
and hopefully, somebody will get that grant in for us that we've been looking for the last number of years. I'd still like to see some big officials come down here and explain to us why 300 people have to maintain a multi-million-dollar sewer plant. 500 people have to maintain the water system. I said, if you get around to rebuilding this thing, who's gonna afford to pay $150,000, $200,000 for new pumps, new generators, new water mains?
It's hard, I understand. But, we are working towards, we did hire someone to look at the water system, and Barton and Judas will be doing an evaluation. If they're going to meet with Terry next week to start the engineering reports, and we'll be making an application to the state health department, so hopefully that'll help us.
Okay.
And the only other thing, we're not ready to really talk about the numbers yet, but we have finished the lift stations. We had put off the request for an extension on Lower James Street for the sewer district. Last year, we had a request from 5 users, and if we, now that we have finished that, the lift station repairs, we can consider this expansion, but we'll be looking at crunching some numbers in the next couple of weeks. Okay, I just, in your packet, there's actually, there was a letter here from Terry also. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else?
Well, I just, nobody ever wants to talk about rate increases, but, our water and sewer district, to Jack's point, is it's maintained by a small number of people, and unfortunately, the costs keep going up and up and up, and we as a board over the years have not had the fortitude to raise the rates accordingly. And I'll say that right out, we just haven't because it's such a small district. But it's gotten to the point now where we need to generate more revenue within the district in order for the district to sustain itself. Over the past couple of years, the district has borrowed money from the town, and so point to my story is that I believe we should expedite, move forward on scheduling a public hearing to talk about rate increases, and I don't think anybody's going to dispute the numbers that were put before us here tonight, and let's just get off the dime and schedule it. So I'm in favor of scheduling a public hearing as soon as possible to get the rate increases in place, so we can start to try to, as Jack said, turn it around, at least get it to the point where it's sustainable and we're breaking even. And that won't even touch the fact that there's still a debt that needs to be repaid, but we just got to take little steps.
One of our big major things is our water tank.
Yeah.
There's $550,000 to repair it.
Yep.
And then if we don't get it repaired in a reasonable time, the Board of Health will come in and condemn it, and then you gotta put a new one.
To the
And
2
you're looking
million
at
plus.
Looking at $1 million, right?
Yeah. And if you remember, when that first came before the board, Bob Nichols back to your administration, I think we had a quote of around $280,000 to rehabilitate the water tank, and at the time, the district just didn't have the money. And we looked for grants, and we looked for alternatives, and we looked for other ways to do it, and here we're looking at how many years later, and it's almost double, or damn near double. So, yeah, it's something that's gonna have to be addressed, but again, little steps, little steps.
And we've addressed it last year that, you know, the water district has numerous issues, the Main Street line that you talked about, the water tank up on Mountain Road, on Brown Avenue, the actual treatment plant needs upgrades because some of those, you know, it's constantly having to, you know, something breaks down because it's just too old. And then the well that we have down in Rundwell is not potable, so all those things added together make it pretty important and serious that we need to address those things. And
I think it also would be a good idea to have Barton and Lejeune give an update so that people know that we've retained them several years in a row to try to address the real capital issues and get us in line for whatever state funding or federal funding might be available, so that to take some of the burden off the water district. And you know, we're paying them pretty sizable amount to work for us, and I don't doubt that they're doing everything they can, but an update, I think, might take some of the sting out of the fact that the water district legally, and I don't think there's anything we can do about that. I think we've looked into that.
I don't believe that they've been hired in the past, unless I'm mistaken, to do anything for the water district. It was the sewer.
Just sewer.
The sewer, so this is a new contract to do with the water.
Okay.
And the work that was done for the sewer was about just the plant, of upgrading and improvements to the plant, and we did not qualify for the, because,
But we have to keep
yes.
trying.
And I've renewed the application so that we can still try to get money for that, but we did not get it last year. So anyway, I absolutely will put it on the agenda next week to schedule a public hearing for the rate increase for April. Bill?
Jack was giving some numbers there. This is not a complaint. I was just wondering, this proposed increase, how much money, like based on last year's usage, would it actually generate above what is coming in now? And would it bring them to a break-even point?
The rate is, it'll bring in $27,000 each department. We're running about a $25,000 deficit in each department now.
It gives you a little bit of leeway.
It's basically been, you know, the rate increase was about the evaluation of how we're running in the red.
Okay.
Another big problem, Bill, is, you know, when it comes out to quarterly billing, and maybe we should look into changing how we bill our water and sewer. When you get into the third quarter, nobody pays their bill, and automatically comes December, goes on their taxes. So there's 4 months until the town collects taxes. We don't collect any income or any revenue out of the water or sewer district. And it kind of comes out somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000 a quarter that people don't pay their bills. So you add that up over the course of the year, that's a huge lump sum that we're not able to spend when the things break down too.
So, what do you think with this increase?
We're still gonna be in the same boat, but the people that pay their bills, that's what we're gonna have to rely on.
Or
Or we'll shut them off,
will there more people not pay their bills because they've got a higher water and sewer bill?
or, you know, start
It's a catch-22.
being more stringent on, you know, cutting services.
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
But it is a small district.
And,
Well-
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, and the plan is, if you hire an engineering firm, which we've done, to look at all the problems that we have and how to go after funding or grants, then you have a situation where you're not having as many breakdowns every week and every month because you've made the repair. So now it's about maintaining the system, you know, after it's been fixed. One of the problems we have is every time Terry walks in the door, I'm like, you know, what are you here for today? Because what broke, you know? So once the repairs are made, you know, we'll be in a better situation. So, you know, the goal is to get some money in so that we can make the repairs and bring us up to a level where we're not constantly worrying about how we're gonna manage to get through the next week with not enough funds to function, so.
That's a good plan, because it doesn't affect the people who are using small amounts of water, which are generally the older people.
A point of interest, that thanks to Terry Johnson and a couple of men that work with him, that our system does run as well as it does. At the same time, because it does, we can't get a grant because things are working too good.
You're absolutely
So,
right.
you know, if Terry, we gotta pat him on the back, at the same time, we gotta push him in the closet or something.
Well, we don't have to worry so much about the lift stations, those have been repaired.
But
You know,
this
last
gentleman
year-
has run this plant for years, and he was,
Yeah.
when he first started as a youngster, and ended up coming into running the whole thing, and thank God we have him.
I agree with you 100%.
But Jack, you also gotta understand, when you see Terry walking towards us, one of us on the board, we don't wanna talk to him.
Yes.
I get that. Yeah, nothing personal.
Nothing personal.
I mean, just for an example, last week we had a break, and literally we took a solid lead line off of Main Street, and there's probably 10 more just like it. You know, lead, you know, so this gives you an example, that's 80-plus years old, you know.
There's no question that it's an absolute must that this water system has to be upgraded. And, you know, we spent a lot of time interviewing the county and the state health department, taking them around, showing them the concerns that we had about, you know, things that were falling apart. And they all agreed that it was time to get this system up and running, you know, more efficiently. And that's why we went forward and hired Barton Judas to do this work for us.
For the sewer side, you know, they pretty much told us in the beginning it's gonna be a tough road because we weren't under a consent order or we weren't failing, but when we went on a tour, you know, they saw that we definitely had enough points, you know, we have no backup water supply, you know what I mean? So, I mean, we have some deficiencies, and they base it off a 150-point system, and pretty much our deficiencies bring us right to that. Sewer, we weren't able to make
Yeah,
that.
and then it's a totally different situation, like you said, and we have no guarantees, we can't promise anything, but we were told when we did this tour that our water system probably will qualify.
And yeah, this is the top guy from the state health department.
Yeah, top guy from health department in the state saying, you know, it's pretty serious and we need to address it, so let's go ahead and do an application. So that's why we're going ahead, you know, that direction in the next week, actually.
He'll be here
Their
next week.
engineers are coming this next week, so. Okay.
Pete,
I'm sorry.
just with regard to the rate increase,
Mhm.
it's going to generate revenue, as you said, and hopefully break us even.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to help us with those dwellings that have multi-uses and are still working off of one meter?
This
I'm
particular
working
proposal will
on
not
that.
do that.
Yeah. This proposal is not addressing that, but I'm talking to Mary Lou about how to address that question. Because it's been, you know, we have to look at what our code is and if any code issue. Do we have to make changes in the code to be able to?
Well, what I'm saying is that before we get into that and correct that end of it, you know, above the minimums, those houses or those dwellings are going to be paying the higher rate increase or the higher increase, right? Based on usage?
Based on usage, it's based on usage no matter how many units you have, it's just the amount of water used, but that won't deal with the separate meter issue,
Yeah,
you know, for that.
That's the ongoing one.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll be looking into it, though, when we do it. Okay, just for your review, CDPHP is due next month for their fiscal year renewal. And I do have a breakdown. Looks like we'll be able to save quite a bit of money this year by switching to a plan that combines the high deductible that we were doing with a deductible for the, you know, copay deductible that the employees would pay. So by doing that, we'll save $33,255. So next week I'll have a to adopt that because that expires April.
That's a nice savings. It's a very nice savings.
And the plan we had would have increased 18%, and that would have been another, let's see. I'm trying. Do you remember, Jill, how much the increase was? Or is she-
11,182.
About 25,000?
Yeah. So instead of a $25,000 increase, we'll have a $33,000 decrease. Oh, it's 57,000. I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Please.
Yeah, I'm looking at police. Yeah, we paid $289 last year, and we'll pay, yeah, it's pretty close, it was 24,000, I think it was, right, Jill?
Yep.
Okay, 24,000 savings, and depending on, we're not sure what plan the police will accept, so that's what we'll be working on that the next week. So, we could have gone to another more higher deductible, but it just puts you in a risky position to not know where you're going to end up. So this was just a little bit safer to have a higher deductible, not quite as high as we had, but requiring a copay. In our packet, there's a letter from Tom Fiore. Him and Dave, over the past year, have repeatedly requested that the town board take a look at our outdoor wood burning stove, outdoor wood burning law.
And hydronic heater.
Yeah. And when this law was first put in place, it was 2009, and in 2011, the state put their own law together, and we'll have to review this a little bit more, but one of the reasons that they're concerned is that we spend a lot of money to do the training for the opacity, and they feel that it's a waste of their time. The way the state works it is that if somebody has a complaint or concern about pollution, or, whether the smoke is the wrong type of smoke, we can give DEC a call, and they would come out, and so we would be using DEC's officials when somebody called in with a complaint, rather than spending $600 twice a year for training. What they're telling me is when they go to the training sessions, they're the only two that are there who don't have some kind of chemical facility in their town. So they feel that it's a little bit overkill that we're spending all this time and money on training for something that they have not had one complaint since 2009, and we're spending this money every year. So by adopting the state law, we would not have to do this any longer. And, that would save us a little money, they wouldn't have to do the training, and we could turn to the state to take over that. Yes, Jen?
Because at the time that when the law was being written, the state had, and I'm sure this hasn't changed, like a couple of people working in the Air Resources office, and were never able to get to calls in time to measure opacity, when
Well-
someone was complaining about smoke. So, at the municipal level, the code enforcement officer is supposed to enforce those laws too, but you're not permitted, you can't enforce them without that training, unfortunately. Even though they know clearly what they feel pretty confident they know what 20% opacity looks like.
Right,
in
and there's,
smoke.
there,
It's just a kind of,
but the
a
thing
bit
is,
of a racket.
if they miss
training.
the training, okay, and this has happened this year, they missed the training because on 2 occasions, one of them or the other one was sick and didn't get to go to the training. Now we don't have the training in place, so then they gotta wait 6 months before the training happens again. So now the law is not, can't be used, we can't use it because we don't have those people trained. And without them trained, the law becomes obsolete.
Right, and I'm just saying
So-
that
And the other thing is, people could still reach out to our code enforcement officers in the building department to say, I'd like you to come and check this out, you know, this is a concern I have. And then they reach out to the DEC to say, we have a complaint. But I do want to make a point that since they've actually started this law has been replaced, there has been absolutely 0 complaints.
and
And,
successful law.
well, you know, I understand.
Well, there's been no complaints. Let's face it, when this law was first implemented, there was no state law. So we were kind of innovators, and there was a lot of energy. This room was charged with a couple of, very, very intense public hearings with regard to that. And the end result was that there was a law crafted and put in place. And you're right, in order for the law to be enforceable, that aspect of the code enforcement officers that had to go to this, which was the only certified course available or acceptable in order to enforce it. It was so far out of their realm that they were sitting in a room full of engineers that dealt with smokestacks and computers that read opacity, and it was more geared to that. It really had nothing to do with smokestacks or wood-burning stoves. So, and in, you know, we were spending $2,400 a year for this training, $600 twice a year for both code enforcement officers, in addition to the travel expense, the day's pay, and they were coming back saying, why? Why? So I think this is a good opportunity now to, you know, get on board with the DEC and the state, who has done, you know, all the research and has all the necessary tools and, you know, to enforce their law. So I think it's a good thing. It's going to save our town money in the long run, and we're not going to be any worse off. In fact, we're going to be better off, I believe. So, yeah.
I can see the benefit to having our local code enforcement officers trained. What I don't understand is what is the difference? Why do they have to go every 6 months?
I'll
once
tell
they
you
have a
why.
basic
I'll tell you
training?
why. They say that the eyes cannot remember the
The opacity.
Right, so you have to go every 6 months. They don't believe that that's the case, because if they saw an evidence of pollution, I think they're pretty clear that they would recognize that there was a pollution issue and be able to address it. But because you have this clause in here that they have to be trained for this, so now we have a situation where we're spending a lot of money, and there hasn't been a need for it, and I think it's time to just make that change and fix this so it fits, you know, the way we live here, and the fact that we have a DEC plan that wasn't in effect at the time. It makes sense to look at DEC's law. It's attached to Tom's letter, and, you know, there's some minor changes or differences in the law by the state compared to what we had, but the biggest issue is that we would not have to train and spend money and lose a couple of days where our code enforcement officer and our building inspector is out of town spending money on training that we could spend other money on other training that's necessary for them, so.
I just would like to see a summary of the difference.
Absolutely.
between-
That's not the next step, and I asked Tom,
Yeah.
I wanted to bring this to your attention. He wrote the letter today, so I felt it was important to bring it up, but the next step is that I did ask him to make a comparison, step by step, so that when we bring it to the public, that we have, you know, a comparison, what is in each of these laws, town's law compared to the state law, before we make a decision.
I also think it makes sense, since so much work did go into it, to have the environmental commission weigh in.
Perfectly fine. We have to have a public hearing, and they can, you know, I mean, it's, like I said, this was not in existence when this law was drafted, so.
Gene, we'll have an opportunity to read over the state law and do the comparison, but the one thing I was wondering is, does the state law talk about times of use? Does it restrict?
Yeah, that's the other thing that has been, this is the only other thing that has been a concern by the building department, is that the law that we have for the town starts the usage, I believe, in November till March, and people are calling and saying, you know, I have no other heat source, my house is cold, and it's October 30th, and I need to put the heat on, you know, and we need to be, and the state's, you know, gives it one more month, closer to what we have for, you know, requirements for rentals, you know, when you have to rent, if you know, you have to keep heat on for tenants, that kind of thing. So it's closer to that, and so that gives people, you know, if it's cold, people are gonna put their heat on it in any capacity, whether they have a wood stove or outdoor wood burner. And, you know, I understand the concern people have about the smoke, but 99% of the time, you're gonna close your windows. If it's cold enough to have to put the boiler on, I would assume you'd be closing your windows and not have as much of an issue. But I will have an opportunity to look at this line by line to see if there's anything that stands out as a problem. But I think it's, you know, I've been listening to them for the last year say this has got to be changed, and I think we have to consider this. The next thing on the agenda is we'd like to go over the Central Hudson takeover by Fortis and get the consensus of whether the board would like to support, make a motion to support a letter, draft a letter of the concerns that we have about Fortis taking over Central Hudson and how it would affect both the users, the employees in Central Hudson, and the benefits that we feel we get from Central Hudson now. We did have, Nana had sent something, a letter. Was it like a, you had like a, something that people were signing, is that what it was?
Yeah, it's a sort of an ad hoc letter. It's based on the research that the Public Utility Law Program put together. And I guess, you know, just to summarize, the fact that, we don't know for sure the exact amount, but the two top Central Hudson executives stand to earn close to $15 million. That's not thousand, that's million. On the Fortis sale. And the public benefit for a 5-county region, it's mostly Ulster and Dutchess, but there are pieces of, actually a lot of Greene County and a little piece of Orange and Putnam. That community benefit is $5 million. It's less than what 2 executives would make if this sale goes through. And most of us have had a very favorable relationship with the existing Central Hudson. You know, during a storm and they have to bring outside people in, and the outside people don't exactly know what they're doing sometimes, and you know, it's not perfect. But I sat in the Morehouse Commission hearings in New Paltz on storm response, and Central Hudson, they said to the people testifying that Central Hudson had the best reputation in all of New York State. And I personally think that after a sale to a multinational corporation whose bottom line is going to be their shareholders, not our community well-being or our ratepayers. And there's something called NAFTA, the free trade agreement, where they could actually overrule a decision of the New York State Public Service Commission because of NAFTA, according to the public utility lawyers, that they could win a NAFTA case that would basically override a public service commission. And it's exactly the opposite of sustainability. Sustainability is local self-reliance and building up the local economy. So I really have a concern about the wisdom of taking such a step. I'm not sure what we collectively can do about it, but I think it's not something to ignore and just, because it is precedent setting. It will be the first time that I know of that Fortis begins its takeover here in the United States. And there are other examples of international companies. A company called Iberdrola that bought, I think, bought out Rochester Gas and Electric, and exactly what we're predicting might happen here, happened there, where local Central Hudson workers could lose their jobs. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers is completely opposed because they don't want to see outsourcing. And outsourcing generally means a lower quality of service than the people who are trained and know the system. So I don't know if anybody else
Yeah,
wants to
I
speak
spoke
to it.
I spoke to the business agent, president of
Yeah.
IBEW 320, who is the local union that the Central Hudson workers work with. And that is, his biggest concern is that the outsourcing will create a situation where you don't have the trained manpower. And, you know, concern about the workforce, the percentage of men that will end up being on the ground that actually are locals that do the work. And, you know, it could create a situation where less and less people that live in this area are working for Central Hudson. So it's definitely a concern. I think it's a concern that a foreign company is coming into our area, and maybe they're going to buy power from outside of our area. So it is something that there's a list of reasons. What I would like to do is ask the board members to compile the list of what you can think are concerns, get them back to me so I can draft a letter for next week. What your personal, you know, things are that you might think are issues you'd like to address in this letter. We, you know, like I said, what can we really do? We can just let the
We can make public comment.
we can make public comments and we can let them know that we're concerned as a board, that our community is concerned. And, you know, the only other thing we're doing by doing this is going on the record as someone that, maybe needs to address these issues before they make a final decision.
Yeah. At least it may end us up, we may end up with a better decision from the
Right.
Public Service Commission than the offer currently on the
Right,
table.
the way I'd like to see it happen is that we draft something that says, if this is going to happen, these are the things we'd like to see that we could promise. I mean, some of the promises they're making right now are not very long term. And, 2 years of not reducing the manpower is not really very long before you might see people not. And the same thing with rate increases. And so,
They're going to hold the
it's
rate
a short.
increase for a year, and they couldn't collect it for 8 months of that year anyway. I mean, it's things like that.
Yes, Jen?
I've provided a background summary for you guys, but if you have, any informational questions, I'm happy to, I don't have the information, look into them for you too, so use me as a resource.
Susan?
Just one other thought. I talked today with the basically single staff person, I think it's our 1.5, at the Public Utilities Law Project up in Albany, who's the source of some of this information. And he said that one of the things we could ask for is to ask for a public recommendation of the Public Service Commission, which means that rather than the Public Service Commission acting on the recommendation, there would be more discussion in the public, because I feel like people are just beginning to see what the issues are, with this takeover.
What is it called?
I can get you the exact wording, a public recommendation rather than a recommendation. Somehow it means that they would have to open it up for further discussion in the public. Because most of the towns and most of the people around, they seem to know that this is happening, but they don't really know, what it portends.
Well, maybe you would like to make a motion, madam?
Yeah, I also do want to give credit where credit is due. We have an event coming up, the Rosendale Energy Expo, and Central Hudson is a sponsor of that. They've always sponsored our Energy Expo, and they've sponsored wonderful renewable energy green building conferences all over the region, all over their service area. And sometimes they've donated $1,000 or $500, and we have, in the Central Hudson District right now, we have the highest per capita rate of solar installations anywhere in New York State. They've had to raise the cap several times. That's the current Central Hudson. And if it's a Fortis-owned Central Hudson, I don't think we're gonna see any of that. And that's really a concern. So with that, I would like to, how are we gonna do this? Make a motion to authorize the supervisor to draft a letter with input from the town board to the Public Service Commission with regard to the proposed merger of Central Hudson with Fortis. It's really a purchase of, and let's just say what it is. A merger sounds like they're gonna work cooperatively together. It's a purchase of Central Hudson. Now, a lot of the upper management people will probably still have their jobs, but they will then be answerable to Fortis.
I think I'm gonna finish the motion.
Okay. What do we have so far, Mrs. Jordan?
To authorize the supervisor to write a letter with input from the board.
With regard to the purchase of Central Hudson by Fortis, International Fortis.
Inc. It's Fortis Inc.
Fortis Inc. Yeah.
And I'll second.
And the comment period is open until March 22nd,
Right,
so
so
we could
that's-
act on it.
Yeah, that's why I wanna have it for next week's meeting.
Excuse me? Fortis Inc., a Canadian holding company. And by the-
Yes,
There's a company called Ambit. Has anybody heard of this? Ambit Energy? Because I just got a letter from the Center for Symbolic Studies who are doing they're buying into it. It's an alternative energy company. I can't say more than that. I just wanted to ask if anybody has heard of it. It's a,
it's not uncommon,
No.
there's other companies similar.
I can't say, but I just wanted to bring it up because I'm just reading now because I just got the email while this was going on. So it was kind of interesting. Apropos. But I'll do a little research and find out. I guess if
And
nobody.
I would like
Did
to
you know
add that, I also agree that, that I felt Central Hudson really worked really well with the communities at large, during the storms. Every day they had, communications open, and they responded to, every supervisor called in, we had conference calls throughout the Central Hudson service area, and they listened to every single supervisor about the concerns they had about what was happening with power in their community. So I was impressed with how well they responded. So I know that there's concern about whether we'll lose those kinds of services, especially as we go forward and maybe have other events that may happen. So I think that might be something we want to talk about also in the letter.
I just also want to say one other thing about this, and that is that the other major holding they have is in Belize, and it's a hydroelectric dam. And any of you who know me know that I'm a big supporter of hydroelectric because it's a very clean source of energy. If it's done like it was done up in Niagara Falls, where there's naturally a huge drop, and the environment was not negatively impacted. But the situation in Belize took out really sensitive environmental habitat. And so what we talk about is low-impact hydroelectric, not any hydroelectric. You don't want to trade off flooding an area that provides oxygen and takes up carbon dioxide and helps the global climate change problem by putting in a hydro dam. And so there's sort of good hydro and not such good hydro. And this was really opposed, and they pushed it through anyway.
I think that we all agree that.
I don't want to.
Yeah,
I try to educate people every chance.
I think they also used workers imported from China to build the
instead of local workers as well for that project. Anyway,
Well,
it's the wrong direction to go.
so we're gonna draft a letter and hopefully,
They have a roll vote.
Sorry. Did we get a second? I'm sorry.
Councilman Gallagher,
Yes.
Councilwoman Green,
Yes.
Councilman Haslett.
Yes.
Supervisor.
yes. By the way, Councilman Ryan was excused tonight. Okay. The next thing on the agenda is, this is a resolution we'll be doing next week, but just so you know, the top will change from High Falls to Rosendale on the title. We had bought cameras for the High Falls Water District last month or the month before, so of course that template was being used. But what I have here is well, first of all, let me just say that since last year, the Workplace Violence Prevention Committee has been, it was on one of the things on the agenda that we had talked about, and it was important to get cameras on the youth center and the rec center. And as of this past meeting, they made a recommendation to the town board to provide security cameras for the youth center. And so I do have the attached Crosspoint quote, but I do know that, we'll have to wait for the other two quotes to come in, but when we did the High Falls Water District, there was a significant difference in pricing, so I'm expecting it will be similar,
Yeah.
similar differences, so I'd say we're probably going to be going with them, but I didn't want to wait and not have it addressed before next week.
Yeah. And Gene, I know that the quote was made out specifically for the Rosendale Youth Center, but for the purpose of of next week's resolution, I'd like to read it for the Rosendale Community Center, because even though it would, it would encompass the youth center, these cameras are also going to go around
Right.
the entire property.
Right, and it does say that on the resolution.
Okay.
It says youth center and recreation centers located.
I'm just saying with the head.
Yes, I'll ask Kathy to release a revised quote with the community center on there. But we're thinking that we're gonna, this system will have 4 cameras to start with a capacity for, I believe, 8 cameras. Is it 8, Jill?
Yeah, totally.
So we can, like next year, buy 4 more cameras and then maybe have more of them towards the center of the park,
What's it gonna cost?
The cost is $3,040.
And by doing this, we may very well realize some savings in insurance with regard to just having surveillance on the property, so we'll check that out.
And there's been some incidents that we could not figure out how that something, took place, and this will really, give us the ability to look at Terry can tell you that
I
the
mean,
day,
like I have it right now, I mean, you can see like High Falls, you can see it from any smartphone.
the day,
Live, I can see it from anywhere,
Yeah.
anytime.
I just want to tell you the story when Terry came in like a day or so after it was installed and said, oh, we're installed, and he opens up his phone to show me that he could see it live. He's like, oh, look, here it is live, and he watched a truck drive right through the gate and leave the gate open. He goes, well, there goes the truck, and now I know who it was, and they let the gate open, and there was no question, and he was watching it, showing it to me,
Yeah,
just happened to see.
just happened to be right
Yeah.
that second.
It was like, okay, now we know what happened. Somebody let the gate open and there's the culprit.
Yeah, mhm.
So, that's just one little piece of how much difference it could make and how you're monitoring something like that, so.
It's a shame that it comes to this.
Yeah, it is.
Given, what I've observed over just the last year or so.
And
And the workplace violence training.
And this is really something that's being identified through our Workplace Violence Committee, that it's an important thing to step in the right direction to give protection to the community and to the employees, so.
And not only that, it's going to help the town with regard to liability too.
That's right.
We have had over the years cases where people have claimed that there's been certain injuries on this property and, without any surveillance or video,
vandalism is another issue.
Vandalism too, sure. So it's
You're
a
right.
it's a good thing.
Okay, so we'll,
Just don't do it.
Jan?
Just looking at this where it says the 430 years, and that.
Yeah, well, the reason Jill has that, and she has it highlighted, is because, oh, I'm sorry, but she put it in the resolution because last time we got that, we ended up doing that maintenance agreement too. We didn't get a quote for that, so.
Well, I was just wondering if you answer that, and is that going to, is that figure going to increase? That might be something that you want to find out too from Kathy while we're
Good point.
getting revision.
Okay, I'll look into that.
No, we're not pointing the camera up that way, protect somebody's back.
No, I've been protecting this for what, 11 years, I've been protecting this
You have
property.
the eyes for it, right?
Yes, I can now go on retirement now.
Maybe the monitor should go in your kitchen.
Pointing at the basketball court.
Well, if her get home, you're gonna need
No, I'm
something.
not gonna be
You're gonna need
home.
something for Pat to do.
She's not gonna be home, we'll see. Okay, the next thing on the agenda, this is a resolution to support the expansion of the Catskill Mountain Rail Trail that the county is looking to do. As a town that I feel is going to be very strongly impacted by the opening of the trestle and the opening of the Walpole Valley Land Trust trails all the way into Kingston, I feel that it's important for us to show support for rail trails in our area and how the connectivity is going to help our town. And while I'm on that subject, I'll just mention there is a little in your packet. Where is that, Joe? Is it under? No. Under correspondence, you'll see that there's the section from the Walpole Valley Land Trust, second one on the page, the Rosendale Circulation Study. If you remember, last month I did a resolution to ask the board to support me applying for a connectivity circulation study for the town of Rosendale to give support and planning to the opening of the trestle and how we need connectivity to town, to our park, to the bike shop that's now going to be on 32, Park and Run, down on Main Street, to the parking lot on Main Street, and the parking lot that will be, we're in negotiations with Walpole Valley Land Trust to agree that we'll share parking with the one on Johnsonburg that's down below that we're using, and one at the Guinea Water Dam. And it's important that we have the signage and the bike paths and the, the ways to show the community how to get from one place to another when they come to our town. It's an important part of economic development for our town. And I'll just read what Ulster County Transportation Council said. The primary purpose of the study is to improve connectivity between key recreational attractions in the town of Rosendale's Main Street district. A connectivity plan will be conducted in the town to provide a detailed examination of options for improving circulation, access, and pedestrian safety along public rights-of-way in the town. This project is predicated on the opening and relocation of several new recreation facilities in the town in 2013, and the resulting need for creative, deliberate, and safe measures for pedestrians, bicyclists, visitors to park, locate, and safely navigate between these popular sites. The plan will provide engineering-level recommendations, identifying gaps in critical facilities such as sidewalks, crosswalks, as well as low-cost, near-term options for new streetscape enhancements such as road restriping and shared lane markings for bicyclists. The conceptual wayfinding and signage program will also be developed to direct visitors to parking areas, recreation sites, and businesses within the town. improving local connections and access to the Walkdale Valley Rail Trail will also help to fulfill the vision of the trail network across the region as a whole. So I feel that, doing this resolution to support the Ulster County's proposal to develop the Catskill Mountain Rail Trail is another extension of what we're doing in Rosendale. And so I'd like to support that. So, and I thought it was important to point out what's going on in our town. As far as our rail trails, there was a big outcry, concern about parking and what was going to happen when the trestle opened, when the Walkdale Valley Land Trust had their public meetings, and this will help address some of those concerns. Yes, Jack?
I know at the meeting there, they were telling us what different parkings. We have a chaos right in the middle of town with that Hardenberg Lane to go into our parking. If you get 2 cars going in, 2 cars coming out, you got a jam. You cannot get in that street and come out again. The cars can't pass. And something's got to be done if you're going to educate.
This is going to be addressed when we do this study. That's part of it. But, we'll be dedicating the property across from the trail.
Which is perfect, right.
Which will.
So you're going to get a lot of people come for the trestle and not for the rest of the trail.
Well, this is true, but the idea of this also is to encourage people to come into town and use the other things in our town, like our restaurants, and, shop.
Which I say is
whatever.
fine, and we have that other parking behind the theater there, but to get in and out of it is chaos.
Well, this is
You gotta find another way of doing it.
one of the reasons that it's important to have this study done and have a plan in place. Yes, Jim?
Will commissioners have a chance to give input into the connectivity discussion?
You can give me input, but it's being done through the county. So this is something that will be done, they will be the ones handling this. We will have input, we'll have a small group of people that will give them. So I would say if there's concerns, it makes sense for you to, write them up. I've put a lot of those things in the grant already when I wrote the grant. So it's about, if there's something else that you think I might have missed, I'm happy to look at that and address it, but I think that,
I just mean, is they're developing, as a plan is being developed.
what's that?
As a plan is being developed, a connectivity plan, or is there will be a public process, or is it?
I'm not sure of all the details yet on that, because it is something that they're the ones that administer it. So we'll do this next week. The next one I'd like to do tonight, just for timing. We did this last year to get grant money for the coaches for the swim team. And we're still able to go ahead and do that so that we can, we get half the money back from this grant. So we'd like to do resolution 3/2013-1, application for state aid to the New York State Children and Family Services. Whereas the town of Rosendale has been supporting and paying salaries for the coaching staff of the Rosendale Rapids swim team. And whereas the recreation director, Tara Burke, was made aware of a state aid opportunity that was available for which the town of Rosendale was eligible for. And whereas the town of Rosendale will be applying for the state aid in the amount of $2,600. Now therefore be it resolved, Gene Walsh, a supervisor of the town of Rosendale and chief fiscal officer, is hereby authorized and directed to file an application for state aid with the New York State Children and Family Services in the amount of $2,600 to cover costs of coaching staff.
That's it.
All right.
Councilman Bowler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hennessy?
Yes.
Supervisor? Yes. Next thing on the agenda is something we've been talking about. I'm wondering if it was something possible, and lo and behold, the Red Cross approached Tara not too long ago about wanting to use the recreation center, partner with us to be able to use the recreation center as a Red Cross much just be working through us to just be able to assist us in operating this facility.
As far as food and water, the Red Cross will provide that.
You know,
We provide the building
Right.
and the facility.
they, just looking at if that's in here.
It is, it's on page
Yeah,
2.
Yeah, under food services. You know, it's basically a support system. We did it ourselves twice, so, you know, this is a way to get some additional support. I think that most people would agree that Red Cross is a reputable group to bring in to help with that kind of activity. And they've recognized that we've done this and are offering to assist us.
What about the clause about notification because of when the shelter is going to be closed? Because if we decided it needed to stay open, we could still keep it open. It just wouldn't be the Red Cross's shelter.
That's right. We have, it's still our space and we have the right to use it for any way we deem necessary, but I think that they have they have criteria for when they would keep a shelter open, I'm sure, like.
And the shelter management there too, where they're asking for a coordinator, local coordinator will probably have to take Red Cross shelter management.
I was under the impression when I was talking.
Come out of retirement.
I was under the
If I go,
impression.
I'm gonna go with the national.
You would know better than me, Joan, but I was under the impression that it would be something we do where they have their manager, but
They
we
will
have
have
our.
someone that will be over them, but they usually want somebody that is going to be here, so like Tara, or
Right.
somebody that's going to be in the facility.
Yeah, they call it a facility coordinator, so that.
Right. And that,
So there would be some sort of training eventually that Tara could go to?
they usually
Oh,
want
Paris.
Is that what it is?
Paris email states that the Red Cross offers a 3-hour class for training our shelter volunteers.
Yeah, the coordinator though may be more intense.
Right.
I had to go for 3 days and then as a
I'll
shelter
specialize
manager.
in what's for lunch.
What time's your shower?
It was
Anyway,
12 hours a day.
Is this something you guys feel this is something you'd like to do? How do you feel about this?
I think it's a good thing. It was discussed at the rec commission meeting, and the rec commissioners are on board with it.
Okay. Everybody's good with that? We'll pass that next week then. All right, so, the next one I have to do tonight also. Last year, to December 31st of 2012, we had Barbara Kendall, who was doing our MS4 training and doing the reports for us, and we lost her as of the 31st of December because she got another job. So she was no longer available to do this. So I've been scrambling to find someone that would be able to take over this, and especially for the budget that we had put aside for this already. And I did recently get an agreement in place with Bernier and Larios. Jolene from Bernier and Larios has done it for Sororities, town of Sororities, village of Sororities, and some other places. And so they've agreed to keep it under the $3,500 that we're paying to Barbara. I'd like to do this resolution now because the report's got to be done by May, I believe it is. So we're coming to the end of the year, the fiscal year for the requirements. So it's basically a time-sensitive issue.
Did you have to, I mean, the cost is low, but did you have to get multiple proposals?
I talked to a couple other engineers and said we couldn't do a fair price. I didn't get a proposal written, but I just was told I can't do it for under $3,500.
Okay. I think probably
was kind of one of the reasons I could get them to do it, was because I could say, Tom is doing a lot of the work, and that, Carl has his guys that have already been trained and know what to do, and it's a matter
And
of.
the environmental commission, the education.
So they're agreeing to do the training like Barbara did, once, and the outreach, and help do the report and the public hearing, and we'll have more and more of the town employees take over as much as possible, so that we need less and less assistants and consultants. Yes?
Will they do you were hoping to do an erosion sedimentation control workshop? Would they be willing to do that?
I think we can talk to them. I think he knows that we have to do one training session for the employees, and I didn't go over what it would be. I know last year we did pollution. You have a particular thing that you want to run by him. I don't think it's going to be a problem. He didn't specify what the training would be. He just said, I made him understand that we had to do at least one training. And, we have a lot of the documentation that Barbara did as far as like the flyers and things like that, so we can just reproduce those. The biggest thing is to make sure that the report is done, and that the public hearing is done, and the training, and somebody to support when the audit's done or something like that. So, Resolution 3/2013-2, contract with Bernier Larios for MS4 separate storm sewer system management consulting. Where the town of Rosedale is regulated municipal separate storm sewer MS4 community, and whereas the town of Rosedale is committed to the management of stormwater control and pollution prevention, and whereas the town board of the town of Rosedale is in need of a MS4 consultant for the 2012-2013 year, and whereas Bernier and Larios have submitted a proposal for engineering services related to MS4 reporting, and whereas the town of Rosendale has a budget of $3,500 to manage this program, and whereas Bernier and Larios have agreed to provide services for $3,440, now therefore be resolved that the town of Rosendale authorizes the supervisor to sign attached contract for MS4 consulting.
I'll second.
Councilman Gallagher?
Yes.
Councilwoman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hassel?
Yes.
Supervisor? Yes. Yes, Jack?
Talking about storm sewers, Main Street, on the post office, there's a sewer drain there, that if you hit that thing, it knocks your right wheel right off the car. The rest of them are kind of bumpy as it is, and of course, that's the narrow side of the street, especially with the snow piled up against the other side, and people park further away from the curb. You gotta really squeeze out to the right, and when you do, if you hit that sewer, that's gotta be adjusted.
Well, unfortunately, that's a state road, right? You're talking about the state, and
I got a suggestion. Take a left out of the post office, go up James Street.
Yeah, I'm putting the toll booth up tomorrow, yes. But that one sewer there is very,
I pointed out some other
Very bad.
issues that to the state, and, I can bring it up to them again, but until they're ready to do work, they don't feel that, it's a low priority, unfortunately.
you gotta ask them to take a ride with you in their car, and you drive and hit that hole.
Good idea.
The next thing was the resolution that we talked about last month that Anna had proposed. Mid-Hudson Regional Sustainability Plan.
I have a copy of the full document, if anyone
Yes.
wants to see.
Yeah, it's here because we're
And
gonna
I
let
think I
Bob
sent the
Ryan
link
look
to
at it,
everybody.
but if anybody wants to look at it, before the season, more than welcome.
We are very proud of the energy section, and just, we had over 100 people that are energy experts, and some activists, and environmentalists, and business people, and investors, working together in a collaborative process. And our feedback from NYSERDA is that this plan is one of the best, if not the best in New York State. And what we did to make the energy plan work, and I say this for other reasons other than telling you about the plan, it's really speaking about collaboration, is that we took the controversial issues of Indian Point and hydrofracking off the table, because we could have spent 8 months debating them. And what did that leave? Energy efficiency and renewable energy. And if you have a chance to read the document, which is on the Town of Greenburgh, New York website, and if anybody has trouble finding it, write to me and I'll send you the link. You'll see that it really is the first step in transitioning to a green energy economy, which we all wish for, but we have to figure out how to do. And this is, and the same for water, and the same for waste management, but probably energy is the most urgent. And I think what was so superb about this process was the hundreds of volunteer hours that were put in by energy experts in the 7 counties in the region. And our goal is to make the Hudson Valley a model for the rest of New York State. So it was
Who did you
a real
say,
privilege.
who did you say was, said that? I didn't catch that.
NYSERDA,
Okay.
who funded 10 of these projects. I think only 7 actually, I'm not sure all 10 regional economic development councils or, regional economic development areas worked on it this year. So there's a regional economic development council, and then there's a parallel sustainability planning process. And this product, and there was an iterative connection between the sustainability plan and the Regional Economic Development Council. There were actually people from both assigned to sort of keep track of what the Economic Development Council wanted and what the sustainability plan, how that was being developed. So that, but I just, the whole idea with the collaboration, sometimes the best way to get stuff done is set aside the stuff you know there's disagreement about and focus on the stuff that there's a high level of agreement about. And that's what really worked.
I got a question for you. It says here that this is a draft. When do they expect the final?
That final document,
The one that you
what it
gave?
is, it's the final draft. All of NYSERDA's changes were incorporated. They also took out a lot of policy recommendations, so we're going to write a separate policy document. NYSERDA can't prohibit us from developing a policy document, and it's going to be just informative. It's not going to be anything that we'll need sign off on or anything. But they stripped all the policy recommendations from the 7 working groups out of the plan, and they made some other changes. Those have been incorporated. So essentially, this is the final waiting for NYSERDA approval, but every single thing they insisted on was done. And in spite of that, we still have an outstanding plan that we can actually use to create a more sustainable future. It's really quite amazing document, and I think it is because the process was so inclusive. But that's the only draftness, and part of the thing that NYSERDA was looking for with the final is sign off from as many municipalities and organizations, particularly those that had signed the original letters of support for the approximately $900,000 grant that paid for the development of this document.
Okay, well, I think we can vote on this next week. I don't know if you guys have any other questions.
And if you have any questions, I Dave Church or Madden, Thomas Madden, who were the two, co-conveners of this process, because I've been so intimately involved that you guys may want me to recuse myself. I have nothing to gain, but I was, as part of my job, very involved, particularly in the energy section and also in the water section and the climate section, which is scattered throughout. And we may even by next week, I don't know what NYSERDA's schedule is, but we may have the final. But what we have is the final draft that there's no intention of making any other changes. Because we submitted back to NYSERDA waiting for their final approval.
All right, the next one I have to do tonight also. I recently met with some other supervisors and the mayor of the city of Kingston to discuss the Channel 23 public access television station, which is presently being run out of the town of Esopus. The supervisors and the mayor felt that it would make sense to approach the Common Council for Kingston about changing the status of the public access television 23 to create a community government channel rather than just a public access channel, which would give us an opportunity to really use that channel 23 for all community government, publications like town board meetings, things like that. And KAGO's offered a $10,000 grant to update the equipment. They kind of have old stuff right now, so we're looking to do something. Yes.
So would that mean that it would be possible to have a live feed from here?
We don't know yet, because it
Well, that's what I'm suggesting and putting my 2 cents in for.
You could suggest it.
Yeah,
I don't have control over that.
okay, but that's on my wish list, because that would be great, because really,
Right now, everything's taped and it's given to them, and then they
Right.
they publish it that way. It's not live.
right,
So the hope is that they would have, by buying new equipment, I don't know how far that new equipment would take it.
Mhm.
May only, maybe go to digital or something like that. Maybe the next time they'll do some other upgrades. So it's a beginning to get something, So I'm not saying it's out of the question, but I doubt that there's going to be the kind, $10,000 is not going to go that far.
When Tim Morrison was the liaison with Kingston Cablevision, that's how I think of it. I know it's got a different title now and everything, but there was some real dysfunction going on, and has that been resolved?
Well, the reason that the supervisors want to make this a community government-run
Gotcha.
channel, it'll take away some of the inappropriate stuff.
Going
Is
back.
that what you meant?
Yes.
Right now, Channel 23 is just, it's in disarray. It's just a loop. I think a couple of municipalities, Esopus, they put their town board meetings on there, but they're not live. So I think this is going to be a way to get Channel 23 revitalized in such a way that's got some credibility, that there's legitimate government function being showed on there, and maybe
then
perhaps some
we
educational
each-
things.
Sorry, we need to be able to send a representative to a governing body.
Right now, it's the supervisors, but
It's
we
the
may just, we may,
supervisors,
you know, I've been meeting with them for the past year, and we may decide to have a representative from each town, but right now, it's been supervisors and the mayor. But I don't see any reason why that, you know, that's not necessarily set stone, but I think that was about how do we get this up and running in a healthy way? And, the other thing is, there may be things like, you know, you wanna, you know, host the parade or something that went on, or something like, it doesn't have to be just our town board
An
meetings.
energy expo.
What's that?
An energy expo.
Yeah, I mean, it could be any other thing that we feel that we approve, it would really be about our approvals. It wouldn't be a situation where anybody can post anything they want. It would be about, you know, if you wanted to have town board meetings, planning board meetings, zoning board meetings, or whatever, and then maybe you want to have certain events that you have in your town, and then there would be a schedule that set up, you know, how to but in the beginning, I don't see it as a live feed, because I don't believe that when you're talking about all the different towns, not everybody's going to have that capacity to be able to.
And somebody has to still be empowered to do the scheduling.
That's right. And there is a little talk, there is a little bit about the cost of the towns, but we're looking at that as a minimal cost, because we're looking at volunteers to run the equipment, and it's just about maybe paying for their, you know, their expenses or something like that. So,
I think in Woodstock, their payroll is really community responsive, as I recall, and this really hasn't been.
yeah. Well, this is an effort to change the direction, and Supervisor Peacock will be coming by tomorrow to get the original signed by every supervisor, and that's why I want to do it tonight. Yes. So the resolution 3/2013, is this 3?
Great.
Yes. Resolution to approve supervisor to sign letter supporting Channel 23. Whereas Channel 23 is currently a public access local television station authorized by Time Warner Cable and City of Kingston Common Council. And whereas the supervisors from the town of Esopus, Hurley, Kingston, Watertown, Rosendale, and Ulster, and the mayor of the City of Kingston have reviewed the history of Channel 23 and would like to request the City of Kingston Common Council to operate Channel 23 as a community government channel. And whereas Channel 23 could be of tremendous aid during local emergencies such as storms, floods, etc., as it is housed in the new town of Esopus Town Hall, which has standby generating capacity. And whereas Assemblyman Cahill has committed $10,000 grant for the purchase of equipment. And whereas the supervisors and mayor have agreed to support Channel 23 with a letter that has been drafted that reflects said support. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board of the town of Rosendale authorizes the supervisor to sign said letter on behalf of the town of Rosendale.
I went to second.
Councilman Gallagher?
Yes.
Councilwoman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hansel?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. And the next thing on the agenda is, next week on Wednesday is the last day to apply for shared services grant for the state. And as we don't have a contract or agreement in writing yet with the Rosendale, the Rondout Valley School District, and we are drafting a supervisor's agreement right now. I'd like to go ahead as the lead and apply for a shared services grant with Marltown, Rochester, and the school district as co-applicants, just to request that they help us with the cost of running that building simultaneously with the existing buildings that we have now. Because we have all budgeted for the buildings and the operation of what we have existing, and we do not have the funds to open the doors and, you know, make them move while we're simultaneously running two locations. So the grant application will center around the need for more funds to help us to be able to go after this property as an option for shared municipal services and community services also. So I'd like to do this one tonight because it's due by Wednesday, 4 o'clock Wednesday, and we're not meeting until 7:30 Wednesday.
Let's do it.
Okay. Resolution 3, 2013, 4, resolution allowing the town of Rosendale to be lead applicant for the 2012-2013 local government efficiency grant for the towns of Rosendale, Marbletown, Rochester, and the Rondout Valley Central School District have agreed to work together to draft a lease with an option to buy the Rosendale Elementary School. And whereas the Rosendale Elementary School would be used as a shared municipal building and community center, and whereas the state of New York is offering a shared services grant, and whereas the sharing of the Rosendale Elementary School building would qualify the 3 towns to be eligible for shared services grant, and whereas the 3 towns need operating costs to run Rosendale Elementary School as a shared municipal space, as the town budgets have not included operating costs for the Rosendale Elementary School as a municipal building. Now therefore be it resolved, the town of Rosendale will act as lead applicant for the 2012-2013 local government efficiency grant. Be further resolved, the town board of the town of Rosendale authorizes supervisors to apply for said grant.
I'll second.
Before we call for a vote, I just want to say that, I've always hoped that we would have a town hall in walking distance to Main Street. Given these economic conditions and the benefit of shared services, I'm going to vote in favor of it, but I'm looking at it as an experiment, and I hope we don't commit ourselves for, a 99-year lease or something. I think we ought to see how it goes over time, because it does mean that not completely, many of us would have to get in our car to come to town hall anyway, but having a town hall in the hub means that, more people have accessibility to it, and people might not have to get into their car to, go, at least people on Main Street and James Street and in the village. So, I do have mixed feelings, and I just wanted to say that before we proceed, but I definitely see the benefit in these economic times. It's reuse of an existing building, and it's in a location where those shared services do make sense. I'm going to vote for it, but I wanted to express that reservation.
I'd like to respond to what you had to say. I understand the concern about moving town hall on Main Street, but I would like to say that we really don't have a town hall in Main Street. We have a partial town hall in Main Street. We are not able to adequately provide service to our community with the town hall that we have existing. It's been inadequate for many years. We have to rent space down the street. We have to have multiple locations in our town to service the community, because we don't have, we're sitting in the community center having our town hall meeting because we don't have a town hall to have a meeting in. Okay? So we have a town clerk's office. The town clerk can tell you that they're all crowded in there. We had to take the town tax collector and put her in where the copy machine was, because we couldn't leave her in the foyer any longer because it wasn't safe to leave her in the foyer. I mean, it's just an unrealistic way to do business as a town. And this situation is going to, in some ways it might be an inconvenience. The way I look at it, we're a rural community. We don't all live on Main Street. We don't all live on James Street even. And many people have to get in their car to come to the town hall. And it's an inconvenience when they get here, because you know what? There's no place to put their car when they get here. So you have stacked up cars. You have, people still have to park far away from the town hall to come and do business. And 90% of the time, you've got people coming and trying to find out, where is the office that I need? Where's buildings? Where's police? Where's court? They come to town hall. No, those services are not here. We have to send you somewhere else. So this is an opportunity for us, one, not to have to build, and we avoid the expense of building a new town hall. which everybody's been talking about for years, because we're all aware that we have an inadequate space. The building is, needs work, even if we were to stay there, it's not adequate, it's, we've made it work for many years, but it's really not acceptable. So I look at it as moving to the school, we're gonna have 3 communities sharing, this is gonna be an innovative plan. 3 communities sharing the space, we're really shared services with four entities, because this Rondout Valley School District is the 4th entity that we're sharing services with. And we're going to be given this property for, a short-term lease of, I think it's going to be 8 years is what we're talking about, for $1 a year, with the option to buy for $1. And that's an avoidance of cost that we cannot turn our backs on. And we'll have numerous new opportunities for community use in this space, because really probably a quarter of the space will be able to open to the public like we do the rec center, and offer, like you're having your art school and that kind of thing, we'll be able to say, here's this much space that we can offer to different groups, and, we have a gymnasium we'll be able to offer for different kind of sporting events that people want to have, different, maybe there's a basketball team, or basketball club, or basketball or volleyball. We'll be able to have maybe some after-school activities there. We'll have a state-of-the-art kitchen and cafeteria for people that want to do. And we're talking about an amazing commercial kitchen, with a walk-in refrigerator and a walk-in freezer.
Another emergency
That doesn't
shelter.
help get that dishwasher.
Could possibly be, yeah. Definitely could
And
be.
it has the, capacity to create, to be a community, municipal combination community center. So we have to take advantage of this, and we're very lucky right now that we have 4 people, 4 groups that are all on the same page. We have 3 towns that all agree that this is a good thing, and we have a school district that agrees it's a good thing. And it's not very often that you get everybody that feels they're on the same page, so. Jack?
I think if we could get together with the other communities, it behoove us to get in touch with Ulster County Bus, so that they could make a route, so people who do want to go to the town board meetings know that there will be a bus there. We could get the bus on Main Street, go right to the high school, basically like the school buses did. And the other communities the same way. Get them to run a schedule
You already
to
do.
work.
You already do. They run from the college, so it's just a matter of taking a right-hand turn down to the.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, but I mean, you put
Yeah,
that
I mean,
down so people could, we could all get on the bus and,
It's in every way, this is gonna be something that, we're gonna be on, we're gonna be on the radar of any kind of thing like that, where people say, where do we want the bus to go, where do we want, of course, that's gonna be a location that they're gonna consider, because look at how many places, look at how many you're gonna be able to service by doing that. But I would like to ask a question, how many people in this room walked here tonight? 2. Okay, so 90% of the people get in their car to come to the town board meeting. So I'm not saying that we can't offer those services, but we live in a rural community, and, it's not very often that, we're looking for connectivity. We want to be able to use sustainability and all, but we are living in a rural community, and not everybody's in walking distance to the facilities, so.
Considering that we're the second smallest town in the county, area-wise, it only takes 10 minutes to get from one end of the town to the other. Compared to Marlborough and Rochester, where it takes a lot longer.
What's the smallest one, Bob? What's the smallest?
Town of Kingston.
The only thing the plan's missing is a school.
Yes.
Is a school. And otherwise, it's all good.
Well, it's
There's going to be a lot more school closures coming within the next 4
I
years.
know,
also.
it's all very short term.
I don't think so.
we can't go back. If the school's closed, it's an empty building, how do we give this service back to the community? This is a way to give back to the community. We're not gonna be able to convince the school district to open up that building as a school. So, I don't feel that that's even a subject for discussion. It's not up to us, it wasn't up to us.
No, I'm not saying
And
it's
so,
up to you.
yeah, it's unfortunate, but this is a chance for us to say, we're not gonna stamp our feet that the school's not open and not take advantage of the fact that we can use it for municipalities. So that's the way I have to look at it. So,
Councilman Gallagher,
Yes.
Councilwoman
Yes.
Supervisor.
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of a particular person.
I'll second.
I sent you a question last